so I haven't posted anything in a few months. Got distracted with a bunch of things. One of them is this Dory 25D, which is now a 25E because they've changed it to electric propulsion. Bought it in October. So I'm bringing it inside and show you what it looks like. So this is the interior. The engine compartment here under the companionway. So a little 12-volt refrigerator there. A couple of bunks. This one pulls out and that folds up, so this becomes a double here. A single bunk over here, and a composting head out forward. I took out the old head and put a composting one in. I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, there used to be a quarter berth back there, but with the refrigerator and one battery and a bunch of electronics in here, it's basically just a storage area, which, you know, is kind of what these things turn out to be anyway. So this is the control panel. The Victron control panel shows all the data on the battery system. And I've got put some new instruments on the boat, and then I'll show you the electric drive system, which is basically down here. So this is the Elco electric motor. It's a 20 horsepower motor. There's a triple shaft seal back there, which is new. Coupling there that allows for slight misalignment. And this box here on the top of the motor basically contains the inverter, and the motor is down there underneath. It's a 48 volt system, and there are 3 batteries altogether. 2 of them are here where the fuel tank used to be. So these are solid state marine batteries. Each one is 10 kilowatts. And they were $6,000 each, and they basically are about a third of the size and a third of the weight of the some of the batteries I was looking at the year before. So and the same price, and they're pretty amazing batteries. I'm still not completely satisfied with them. They're not the Bluetooth information that comes off the batteries is a little wonky, but working to resolve that. And so basically each one of these batteries is 48 volts, 210 amps, or 10,400 watts, and or 10.4 kilowatts. And this is the main switch for turning on and off all the 48 volt 48 volt power. A couple of bus bars, and then there's some fuses. So there's a fuse here for one of the batteries, another fuse here for the other battery, and then this battery back here has its own fuse mounted on top of the battery there. The shunt for the batteries is up there. That measures how much the amperage that's going through the batteries, or, you know, all the electrons going through. So it keeps track of the electrons going out, electrons going back in, and so you know how charged up the battery is. It's a really nice system. The original diesel engine that was in here weighed about 200 pounds. This whole motor here weighs 75 pounds, and, you know, so I can basically pick it up. I can unbolt this here and just pick it up and pull it out of the engine compartment by myself. It's not that hard, and each one of these batteries back here weighs 83 pounds, and they're group 8D size batteries, so not too hard to handle. And you know, basically what I did was, the fuel tank was in this area before. I just reinforced it a little bit and then added some clamps, clamping piece of plywood across the top with some bolts through it to clamp the batteries down. There's some foam rubber underneath them, and on top of them holds them in place, that sort of thing. And then the other the 12 volt battery for the 12 volt electronic systems and stuff is also a solid state marine battery. And I've got a couple of different chargers. So this is one of them here. This is a NOCO charger that charges the batteries relatively simply. It's just a 110, just plug it in and it charges them. And I've also got a Victron charger and inverter back in the cockpit under this hatch, so that can also charge the batteries, and it can take the 48-volt power and convert it to 110. And so what I've done is I've got 110 appliances, 110-volt appliances for cooking. Got a little electric hot plate that sits in on top of here. If I can get this out. Hard to do one-handed, but basically I took the guts out of the alcohol stove that was here before, and basically just set the hot plate down on top of this and plug it into the outlet right there, and switch on the 110 circuit there, and that works. And then I've also just got a little tiny water heater, so I can make coffee for myself. So this is a really nice little boat for one or maybe two people to go cruising on. It sails really well, and been very happy with it. The controls are basically out here where the engine controls were before. Just put a piece of plywood over the other holes there with this other electronic throttle, and that's the whole place for the key switch to go in. So theoretically, if all these batteries are all up to full charge, and I'd have basically 30 kilowatts of power, and when I'm running at like 3 knots or 3.5 knots or whatever, I have about 120 miles of range with these batteries, which is a huge amount. And of course, if I go faster, the range drops off. So at 4.5 knots, and maybe going to be like 60 miles of range, and if I push it up to 5 knots, it'll be down to maybe 40 miles of range. But still, that's lots of range. And 3 knots is fine. Lots of times people are sailing around at 3 knots all the time anyway. There's nothing wrong with that. So and you get to check out the scenery and the wildlife and all that sort of thing. It's super quiet. I really enjoy it, and it's really nice to just be able to turn the key switch on and immediately be going places. So yeah, not having to push buttons, wait for the engine to warm up. Oh yeah, and the service on the motor is basically after 50,000 hours. The bearings need to be changed, so that's not going to be in my lifetime. That'll be a long time from now. I also put on some light leaf solar panels. So you can see them here. They clamp onto the railing, so I added an extra bit of railing here. So I got 3 of those. Each one of those are 110 watts. So I've got, when the sun's shining on them all the way, I've got almost 300 watts of getting 300 watts or so of solar coming in. So, and then this is the little screen that shows the information about what's happening in the system. And so right now there's a 23 watt load on the DC circuit. So it's probably things like the refrigerator or some of the other instruments, or actually that's probably the fan on the exhaust fan on the composting head. That's probably drawing that right now. So you can see the batteries at 98% charge at 57.68 volts. Yeah, so pretty nice system. Things down here, solar charge controller here. It's a boost controller because we've got to boost the panels are putting out 22 amps and 22 volts, and we need to boost it up to 48 for the system to work. So I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching. So this is the boat on deck. And so show you the 12-volt battery is there, and the inverter charger is here. That's what that looks like. That's pretty heavy. That is 25-30 pounds or so. That's the isolator for when we hook up to shore power, and this is the DC to DC converter to take the 48 volts and keep the 12-volt battery charged there. And these are the light leaf solar panels. So there's 3 of them. And they're really nice. They're very lightweight. I think they're Maxion solar cells. And what they've done is vacuum bagged them with some foam core and some carbon fiber underneath to make them stiff and light. And then they've 3D printed these clamps for them. So, and then we just ran connectors through there and then down to the battery system, to that charge controller that I showed you before. Yeah, so and this is really nice, you know, like if I'm mostly just going, you know, using the electric motor to say come into the mooring or go on and off a dock or something like that, these you know, if you just run the motor for say 15 or 20 minutes for something, these will top the system right back up by the next day. So you know, assuming it's not raining or something. So that's really nice. I really don't have to charge much at all. And you know, obviously it's sailboat, so most of the time I'm going out and I'm sailing, and only really doing you know, electric motoring or whatever when, you know, when the wind dies, or just like I said, getting on and off a mooring or in and out of a dock or something like that. So yeah, but I have done a couple of, I did one run about 25 miles just to check performance and stuff, and we used about 7% of the battery capacity, doing an average of 3 to 3.5 knots. So so it all should work out pretty well. Really happy with it. Oh, one other thing I should say too is if you add up the weight for the, you know, the motor itself, the engine, the diesel engine that I took out was about 200 pounds. The diesel fuel tank was 16 gallons, and then there was of course a lead acid starter battery for that, you know, as well as the house bank. But there's, you know, in this case I have no starter battery, so the weight of that out of the system. So what I ended up putting in is just about exactly the same amount of weight as what I took back out. And you know, a little diesel engine with a 16-gallon tank burning, say, you know, half a gallon an hour, and you know, we're looking at pretty much the same range. Now obviously it'd be easy to strap a couple extra fuel tanks along the side of the decks like you see people doing, and that would be easy to do, but I could also have a little Honda 2000 watt generator down here and be charging as well if I needed to. So really no, you know, not much of a compromise at all to do it fully electric. So I thought I'd add just one more bit to this video. So this is the motor. I've got it running right now. It's running about 500 RPM. It's running in reverse because I'm on the mooring, and I just wanted to show the motor running, and also so you can hear it. And on the control panel here, I can pull up the data from the motor. So here's the motor running at about 500 RPM, pulling 4.8 amps. See the battery voltage there, and you can see over here on the Victron control panel, it's basically saying we're pulling about 300 watts at you know, at that 500 RPM. And what does this say? So we could do this for a day and a half, essentially. One day, 16 hours. Should be a long time. So and at about 500 RPM we'd be doing about three knots or so. So if we did 3 knots for say 30 hours, that would be 90 miles. And this is, yeah, we could do this for basically about 45 hours or so, if my math is right. So, you know, 120 miles at this RPM, and at this particular power draw. So yeah, and it's really nice that all this works and connects up together, gives you all that data.